Well, my name is Dr. Shobha Srivastava, and I retired from the National Health Service in 1998. But even before that, many of the ladies I met, mainly doctors' wives and so on, and they would say, or doctors themselves, they would say to me, our children born in this country know nothing about India and the culture and the heritage and so on. So I thought I would arrange a meeting, which I did. I was still working. This is 1992. And the response was absolutely unbelievable. We had more than 45 ladies who came, and they were all saying the same thing. And they were from all over the Northeast, not just from South Tyneside, where I live and I worked here. Came out of the group that actually we asked some young ladies the young ladies in the group to find a name, and they came out with this name, Hindu Nari Sangh, which translates Hindu Women's Association. However, it is neither Hindu nor women's, really. Basically, it's for man, woman, and child, everybody. The thing is, I always thought caring for the people was what human beings were about. My dad was a carer, so was I. And so when I was on the verge of retiring, I told myself, oh dear, what on earth will I do after having worked like 42 hours and so on at a stretch? I thought, what will I do? And then I went and met with a gentleman in our Council of Voluntary Services, the CVS. It's now called Inspire. And the CVS gentleman said to me, well, Age Concerned wants somebody to teach people on the street CPR, how to resuscitate somebody. And of course, that was my field. So I said, right. Well, the very next day I went to Age Concerned. It was called Age Concerned, and then it became Age UK. And now ours is Age Concerned, Tyneside South. So anyway, I went there and we got the dolly, and I got a nurse to accompany me. He was carrying the dolly, and I was teaching people on the streets of South Shields how to resuscitate if somebody suddenly collapsed. That's how it got started. And then I was invited by a lady called Vimla Story, who was the founder of Apna Ghar, Minority Ethnic Women's Center. And she was a caring person as well, and she felt that these poor ladies didn't know the language, weren't allowed to go out as much because, the husbands were protective of them, and also because of Islam, I think. Anyhow, what happened was she called me and she said, Shobha, we need you, somebody like you to come along. And that's how I went there, and I felt really sorry for these ladies. And I will tell you what happened once. It's just a story, but it's not a story, it's an absolute truth. I had gone on a metro to Newcastle because I didn't like driving in Newcastle. But anyway, and I have a habit of talking to everybody. So on my way back, I saw a gentleman who was crying, and I couldn't help myself. I went and sat next to him, and I said, can I help you? What's the matter? Are you not well? I am a doctor. I told him who I was. And he said, no. Then he said in his very broken English, because I don't understand Bengali, that the Bangladeshis speak, and he didn't understand. He couldn't speak English so well. So he said, 8 of us came from Bangladesh together, and 6 of our friends have died, and the 7th one is in hospital on the verge of dying. So I will have no one to talk to. That was the gist of what he was saying. So I said, well, what about family? Do you have family? He said, like that, made a face and said, yes, family, no family. I said, why not? Grandchildren no speak Bengali, and I no speak English. I felt so sorry. And this was a man. So you can imagine what the women had. And there are still so many women. They will get a letter from the school for their child. They have to bring it to the center to be translated. If they have to go and see a doctor for themselves, the child, or anything, they need an interpreter. And that is what Apna Ghar provides. And that's what attracted me to the other organization that I'm chair of. And I've been chair for 10 years. I'm 87. I keep pleading every year, please somebody take it on. But I am not going to give it up to just somebody who's not interested. That goes for both organizations. Like Hindu Nari Sangh has completely changed its emphasis because of what was needed. We've made people living in the Northeast knowledgeable of the rich culture and heritage of India, for example. And with Apna Ghar, we've helped, I don't know, definitely could be coming up to 1 million women and girls to do various things. I mean, the girls have been very frustrated as well because sometimes the dads won't let them go out and they're stuck in the house. You know, there are very, very few Indians who don't know some English, whether it's men or women, especially men. And that's because all children are taught some English. If they go to school, they'll know English. Whereas it's not like that in Bangladesh, I believe. So, and especially a lot of these women have never been to school. And they just come here by way of marriage, or even the ones that came in 1973 after the Bangladesh war, they still do not speak the language, except a little bit like how much is the cost of this, or how can I buy, you know, that sort of thing. Just do their shopping and so on. But when it comes to help, whether it's help with education of their children or health or anything like that, they need this organization. So I'm hoping that Apna Ghar will go on as long as it's needed. And I'll tell you another thing. During the pandemic, we have had an increase of domestic violence more than 100%. And I mean, I'm not trying to justify domestic violence, but what I'm saying is, my feeling is that when there was loss of earnings, when the restaurants were closed and so on, I think the men were frustrated too. How are they going to bring food for their children? How is the next meal going to happen? And so I can understand their frustration and their anger, which they could only take out on their women, I suppose. Not that there's any justification for that. So we obviously have to change according to the need. So we got, well, fortunately, our funders are fantastic. We get funding from, and I have to thank them here, from the Police Crime Commissioner. And we get funding from Community Foundation, another wonderful funder, and from the big lottery and so on. So we got funding for running the domestic violence project. So we got a lead, and then we got 2 other staff members. And they, well, she's now had to leave. You probably know Mahida, don't you? Mahida's had to leave because she's got other things. But she has helped us get another lady, and she's coaching her how to take on the role.